25 years. That's how long I spent chasing a future that never existed. 25 years of overtime. 25 years of debt. 25 years of convincing myself that one day everything would be worth it. Tonight was supposed to be our anniversary. I even bought flowers. I rushed home with a tired body and a hopeful heart, eager to see the woman I loved. The moment I opened the door, something felt wrong. That was when I saw her with Wang Hao. He was the loan shark which I owned a lot of money to. Thump, thump, thump. My heart slammed against my chest. Every breath felt heavier than the last. A sick feeling twisted deep in my stomach, like I was about to throw up, like the world was spinning beneath my feet. And right there, watching the two of them together, it felt like someone had shoved a knife straight through my heart and slowly twisted it. The woman I loved more than myself. How? My voice barely came out. It sounded broken, weak, pathetic, but I couldn't stop staring at her. Su Meiling, the woman I'd spent 25 years loving, the woman I'd sacrificed everything for. How could you do this to me? My hands trembled. My chest felt like it was being crushed. I gave you everything, every overtime shift, every sleepless night. I worked myself into the ground for you, Meiling. My vision blurred. But it still wasn't enough? I looked at the wine, the jewelry, the luxury dress, then at the man sitting beside her. Finished? The bastard looked annoyed, not scared, not guilty, like I was wasting his time. Thump, thump, my heart pounded. The rain vanished. The city vanished. All I could hear was that voice. You're 50 years old. The words hit like a hammer. Because he was right. 50 years old. 50 years of hard work. 50 years of sacrifice. 50 years of believing life would eventually reward me. Then he smirked. And you're still this naive? Naive. Maybe I was. Since I was a child, I had been taught to work hard, be kind, and do the right thing. I genuinely believed the world rewarded people like that. I believed loyalty mattered. I believed love was real. Maybe things worked like that for the older generation. Maybe back then hard work and kindness were enough. But in my lifetime, in the world I had seen, the kind got exploited, the honest got used, and the fools who believed in happy endings ended up exactly where I was. What a joke. Then it hit me. The smell. The perfume. That damn perfume. A scent so familiar I could recognize it anywhere. I had smelled it before. Not once. Not twice. Hundreds of times. On her clothes. On her neck. On her hair whenever she came home late. Every single time I asked about it, she'd smile and tell me the same story. It's my brother's perfume. And like an idiot, I believed her. My stomach twisted. The room suddenly felt smaller. And then I finally understood. What they mean by sometimes love makes you blind. I had never been her husband. I had just been her wallet, her safety net, her fool, a convenient man she could drain while giving her heart to someone else. But one question refused to leave my mind. Was Wang Hao merely the man she chose? Or had he been standing in the shadows from the very beginning whispering in her ears? The perfume, the late nights, the lies, the excuses. Suddenly, they no longer looked like isolated incidents. They looked like real solid, undeniable evidence. For 25 years, I had mistaken devotion for love, sacrifice for loyalty, blind trust for virtue. And look where it had brought me. I looked at Su Meiling, then at Wang Hao. Neither of them seemed worried. Why would they be? People stop fearing consequences when they've been getting away with something for far too long. Slowly, I pushed myself to my feet. The movement alone was enough to change the atmosphere. The room grew quieter, heavier. For the first time that night, I saw uncertainty flicker across Su Meiling's face. Honey! My steps stopped. Not because of her. Because of the memories attached to that word. 25 years of them. 25 years of lies hiding behind it. A bitter smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Don't. Just one word. Yet it felt like closing the lid on a coffin. I picked up my coat, my keys, the pieces of my life that still belonged to me. Then I headed for the door. What about the money you owe me? That finally made me stop. Not because I cared. Because the irony was almost impressive. Slowly I turned around. The smile on my face wasn't warm. It wasn't angry either. It was the smile of a man who had finally understood the punchline. The debt. My gaze drifted toward Su Meiling, then back to Wang Hao. Without saying a word, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my car keys. The keys to the luxury sedan I had spent years paying off. The car she loved showing off to her friends. The car she probably drove to meet him. I tossed them across the room. Wang Hao caught them instinctively. Confusion flashed across his face. Wang Hao frowned and then asked, "What about all the interest you still owe me?" A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Not because his question was amusing, because the audacity of it was almost admirable. Slowly, my gaze drifted toward Su Meiling, toward the woman who had shared my name for 25 years, the woman I had built my entire life around. Then I looked back at Wang Hao. "You've been enjoying something that was only supposed to belong to me." The smile on my face deepened. "And you're asking me about interest?" Neither of them spoke. Good. There was nothing left worth saying. The car, the house, the jewelry, the vacations, the countless nights I worked myself half to death. None of those things were the real debt. The real debt had been standing beside him all along, for 25 years. And somehow, he still wanted more. I shook my head and turned away. The conversation was over. So was the marriage. Without another glance, I stepped toward the door and left them behind. I didn't look back. My footsteps echoed through the penthouse as I walked toward the elevator. Each step felt strangely light, as though I had finally put down a burden I had been carrying for 25 years. The doors opened, then closed. For the first time in years, I was alone. When I reached the lobby, I didn't leave immediately. Instead, I stood there for a moment, looking around. The marble floors, the golden chandeliers, the luxury I had spent decades paying for. How ironic. I never had a fancy degree. I picked up every job I could find, worked day and night for a woman, only to be betrayed by her in the end. And in the end, looking at all of this, I knew my life had been pathetic, and yet I had lost the things that mattered most. Slowly, I pushed open the front doors. Cold night air rushed against my face. The city beyond was alive. Cars, lights, people. A world that continued moving as though mine had not just fallen apart. I took a few steps forward, then stopped. Almost instinctively, I looked back, one last time, at the building, at the life I had spent 25 years constructing. A life built on sacrifices, on promises, on love, or what I had believed was love. A bitter smile appeared on my face. Then I turned away, and walked, past the restaurants, past the glowing storefronts, past the couples laughing beneath neon lights, past the dreams I once thought belonged to me. My mind drifted elsewhere, to regrets, to all the things I should have done differently, to the people I had failed, my parents. A sharp pain twisted in my chest. Even now, after everything, the thing that hurt the most wasn't Su Meiling. It was them, the two people who had given me everything. My father had worked himself into the grave. My mother had sold her jewelry, every savings account, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. Also, their son could afford a bride price worthy of the woman he loved. And what had I given them in return? Nothing. The realization hit harder than the betrayal ever could. I never gave them the life they deserved. I never repaid their sacrifices. I never even got the chance to tell them thank you. The traffic lights ahead blurred. The city lights stretched into long streaks. My vision clouded. My thoughts spiraled deeper and deeper. Regret, shame, failure. I never noticed the red light. I never noticed the horn. I never noticed the truck. Bam! The world exploded. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. Pain consumed everything. Then came darkness. Endless. Silent. And as I lay there between life and death, only one thought remained. If I could do it all again, I would not waste this life. A strange sound echoed through the darkness. Not a voice. Not a machine. Something in between. Then, a pale blue screen flickered before me. System. Identity confirmed. Name Li Wei. Age 50. Status. Deceased. Regret index. 100%. Qualification requirement met. For a moment, everything became silent. Then countless blue lines exploded across the darkness, like cracks spreading through reality itself. System. Investor God System initializing. Compatibility check complete. Host compatibility. SSS-Rank. Temporal authority acquired. Time reversal protocol activated. I stared blankly at the glowing screen. Investor God System? What the hell was that? Before I could think further, another notification appeared. System. Analyzing host life. Financial potential. SSS-Rank. Business talent. SSS-Rank. Life satisfaction. F-Rank. Final evaluation complete. Host life. Failure. The words pierced deeper than any knife. Failure. I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't deny it. The screen continued. System. Host regret level exceeds 99.9%. Rewind eligibility confirmed. Initiating time reversal. 10%. 25%. 47%. 68%. 85%. The darkness trembled. Memories began flying past me. My parents. My first job. My wedding. The house. The betrayal. The truck. Everything. All of it moving backward. Faster. 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 Then, a massive clock appeared above me. His hands began spinning in reverse. System. Reversing timeline. 49 years old. 43 years old. 37 years old. 30 years old. 24 years old. 18 years old. Crack. Reality shattered. System. Time reversal successful. Investor God System bound. Welcome back. Leeway. Current age. 18. Current year. 1993. Mission. Accumulate wealth. Change fate. Leave no regrets. And for the first time since my death, I opened my eyes. Then came the pain. A sharp, throbbing ache spread through my body, forcing a groan from my lips. I jolted upright in bed, breathing heavily as confusion washed over me. My eyes darted around the room, taking in everything around me. The yellowed wallpaper, the old ceiling fan spinning lazily overhead, the faded curtains hanging by the window. For a moment, I could only stare. That was the first thing I felt. The smell of fresh steamed buns drifting from the corner stall outside. The faint scent of morning smoke from breakfast vendors. The familiar air of a world I thought I had lost. Nostalgia. My eyelids fluttered. For a moment, I thought I was dead. I thought I had reached the afterlife. Then I opened my eyes again. Slowly, carefully, afraid that if I blinked too hard, the world before me would vanish. Afraid that this familiar room, this familiar warmth, would dissolve like a dream. But it didn't. The room remained. The sunlight remained. Then I also noticed how light my body felt. The constant ache in my lower back was gone. The stiffness in my shoulders had vanished. Even the dull pain in my knees, earned from years of exhausting work and sleepless nights, had disappeared completely. For a moment, I just sat there, stunned. I turned onto my side and smiled. A real smile. Tears quietly rolled down my face. Not from sadness, but gratitude. Thank you. I whispered into the empty room. Whether it was fate, the heavens, or the system, I didn't know, and I didn't care, because I had been given another chance. A chance to do everything differently. A chance to fix my regrets. I won't waste this life. Not this time. Then, a familiar voice drifted up from downstairs. Leeway. Breakfast is getting cold. My entire body froze. The smile vanished. The tears didn't. For a second, I couldn't breathe. That voice. I hadn't heard it in decades. Then I bolted out of bed. My feet pounded against the floor as I raced down the stairs 2 at a time. Mom! Before she could even turn around, I threw my arms around her and hugged her tightly. The bowl in her hands nearly slipped. Leeway. I buried my face against her shoulder, tears streaming down uncontrollably. I'm sorry, I choked out. I'm so sorry. My mother stood frozen for a moment before awkwardly patting my back. Hey, what's gotten into you? When I didn't let go, she finally pulled back enough to look at my face. Seeing me crying like a child, she frowned and lightly smacked the back of my head. Did you have a nightmare or something? She scolded. You're already this old and you're still crying over things like that. Despite her words, her hand gently wiped away a tear from my cheek. A rustling sound came from the dining table. My father peeked out from behind his newspaper. His face looked a little wrinkled and weary from years of overworking, but his eyes were warm. He glanced between me and Mom before grinning. "What happened?" he joked. "Did your girlfriend break up with you or something?" "Oldly," Mom snapped. Dad immediately raised the newspaper like a shield. "I'm just asking." I looked at the two of them together. Alive, healthy, bickering over nothing, and my chest felt so full it hurt. A smile spread across my face as fresh tears threatened to fall again. I was home. After we'd eaten our fill of breakfast, the three of us stayed at the table talking. First, it was just simple things. Mom complained about rising grocery prices. Dad talked about work and the annoying coworkers he dealt with every day. I listened quietly, occasionally joining in, savoring every moment. To them, it was an ordinary family conversation. To me, it was priceless. In my previous life, I had lost both of them far too soon. Now, hearing their voices again felt like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. But there was one problem, a very big problem. I was 18 years old again. And unlike most 18-year-olds, I already knew exactly what kind of future awaited me. I slowly looked up from my bowl. Dad, Mom, both of them turned toward me. I took a deep breath. "I'm dropping out." The room instantly became silent. The chopsticks in Mom's hand froze. Dad slowly lowered his teacup. "What?" Mom blinked, then blinked again. I quickly raised both hands. Wait. Before you get angry, hear me out." Unfortunately, that was the wrong thing to say. Mom exploded. "Hear you out." She nearly jumped out of her chair. "Do you know how many years your father and I worked for your education? You want to quit school?" She pointed toward the window. "You remember Zhang Ming from Building 3? I nodded. Of course I remembered him. In my previous life, Zhang Ming had become one of the biggest failures in the neighborhood. He dropped out too. Mom shouted. Said he was going to start a business. And what happened? Debt. Nothing but debt. His poor mother cries every month. The more she spoke, the redder her face became. Meanwhile, Dad remained silent. Completely silent. Gone was the goofy man hiding behind a newspaper moments ago. His expression became serious. Sharp. The expression of a father who had spent decades surviving a difficult life. Then he raised one hand. Mom immediately stopped talking. Let the boy speak. The room became quiet. I looked at Dad, then slowly explained everything. The future I wanted. The work I planned to do. The opportunities one saw. The business I wanted to build. Of course, I couldn't tell them about the investor god system, so I only revealed enough to sound ambitious instead of insane. The conversation lasted nearly an hour. Mom argued, then argued some more, then argued even harder. At one point she looked ready to faint. You've both gone crazy. She pointed at me, then pointed at Dad. All these years breaking our backs so he can get a degree. And now you're both talking about business? I lowered my head, because I knew she wasn't wrong. In my previous life, they had sacrificed everything for me. Dad finally folded his arms. The room fell silent. After what felt like forever, he spoke. 6 months. Mom turned toward him. Dad, 6 months, he repeated. His eyes locked onto mine. If you fail, you go back. You finish your studies. And from then on, you do exactly as your mother and I tell you. The room became quiet. I stared at him. 6 months. To everyone else, it sounded impossible. To me, it was more than enough. I nodded. I promise. Dad held my gaze for several seconds before finally nodding back. Mom stared at both of us in disbelief. Are you two even listening to me? Neither of us answered. She threw her hands into the air. You know what? Fine. I'm done. Her voice trembled with frustration. You can do whatever you want. I'm done. With that, she turned away and sat back down, muttering under her breath. The matter was settled. What neither of them knew was that this time was different, because this time, I wasn't walking into the future blind. I had 50 years of memories, and an investor god system. 6 months? That was all I needed to completely change our lives. After changing into a clean shirt, I grabbed my school bag and headed for the door. "Don't forget lunch," Mom shouted from the kitchen. "I won't," I replied. Dad glanced up from his newspaper. "Don't cause trouble." "I never do." Both of them stared at me. Then Mom smacked the back of my head. "You're already causing plenty." I laughed and hurried out the door before she could hit me again. The moment I stepped outside, a wave of nostalgia washed over me. The streets were exactly as I remembered. Rows of bicycles stretched along the sidewalks as far as the eye could see, their metal frames glinting beneath the morning sun. Children darted between them, laughing as they raced through the narrow streets without a care in the world. The smell of fresh steamed buns drifted through the air. Street vendors were already busy opening their stalls, clouds of steam rising from bamboo baskets while bright red banners swayed gently in the morning breeze. Workers stopped to grab soy milk and breakfast before another long day. Everywhere I looked, people were moving. Factory workers carrying lunch pails headed toward the industrial district. Shopkeepers rolled open their shutters. Elderly neighbors chatted beneath the trees as if they had all the time in the world. It wasn't rich, it wasn't modern, but it was alive. And for the first time in decades, I was seeing it again with my own eyes. It was a China that no longer existed, a China standing at the edge of change. Most people didn't realize it yet, but the next decade would transform the entire country. Factories would rise, cities would expand, millions would escape poverty, and fortunes would be created overnight. The opportunities hidden in the years ahead were almost endless. To everyone else, the future was uncertain. To me, it was an open book. As I walked, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. The system. Ever since waking up, I had been too distracted by my parents to properly examine it. I slowed my pace. System. Nothing happened. A few pedestrians glanced at me strangely. I coughed, then lowered my voice. System. Open. Ding. A translucent blue screen suddenly materialized before my eyes. I nearly walked into a bicycle. SSS-Rank Investor System. Host. Leeway age, 18. Rank, SSS. Level 1 experience, 0/100. Wealth 0 yuan. Authority, beginner investor. My heart skipped a beat. It was real. Before I could investigate further, another notification appeared. Ding. New quest available. Beginner. Quest earn your first 10 yuan. Reward. Plus 100. Experience plus 100 yuan. I blinked. Then blinked again. 10 yuan. That was it? The easiest quest in human history. I flicked the screen away and continued walking. If the rewards continued scaling upward, this system might be even more powerful than I imagined. Before long, the familiar school gates appeared in the distance. Students streamed through the entrance. Teachers stood outside supervising. And standing near the front gate, I saw two familiar figures. A boy and a girl, both 18, both laughing about something completely unimportant. My footsteps slowed. Lu Jian and Chen Xiaoyu, my two closest friends. In my previous life, the three of us had been inseparable. We studied together, skipped class together, dreamed about the future together. Back then, we believed we'd stay friends forever. Life had other plans. After graduation, jobs became harder to find. Families moved. Responsibilities piled up. Distance grew. Calls became less frequent. Messages became shorter. Eventually, we stopped talking altogether. Not because we wanted to, but because life slowly pulled us in different directions. The last time I had seen either of them was over 20 years ago, and now, they were standing right in front of me again. Alive, young, completely unaware that the man walking toward them had already lived an entire lifetime. I stopped a few meters away. For a moment, I simply stared, unable to move, unable to speak. Then I said, "Ain't it little Lu Jian and Miss Chen Xiaoyu?" Lu Jian and Chen Xiaoyu. The words barely left my mouth. Lu Jian was the first to notice me. His eyes widened. Then his face lit up. Li Wei. The half-eaten steamed bun nearly flew out of his hand as he waved. "There you are. You owe me breakfast, you bastard." I couldn't help laughing. Some things never changed. Lu Jian jogged over and immediately threw an arm around my shoulder. "Did you forget? You promised if I passed math you'd buy me meat buns." You still owe me 3. 3, I said. You failed twice. That's 6. Chun Xiaoyu covered her mouth as she laughed. Did you remember to bring your lunch today? Or am I going to have to share mine with you again? She asked with a warm smile, glancing at Li Wei. Lu Jian immediately pointed at him. See? Even Xiaoyu remembers. Last week you forgot your lunch twice. I shrugged. And somehow you still ate half of hers. Lu Jian looked genuinely offended. How can a brother keep count? Because you're expensive. That's hurtful. His dramatic expression made Xiaoyu laugh even harder. For a moment, everything felt normal. The 3 of us walked through the school gates together. Just like we used to. Just like before life tore us apart. Xiaoyu glanced sideways at me. Her silver-gray eyes narrowed slightly. You seem different today. My heart skipped a beat. Of course she noticed. Even back then, Xiaoyu had always been frighteningly observant. Different how? You look. She paused. Older. Lu Jian burst out laughing. Older? We're 18. What happened? Did he age overnight? Xiaoyu frowned. I'm serious. Her gaze lingered on me. For a second, it almost felt like she could see through me. Then she shook her head. Never mind. The conversation drifted elsewhere. Until I stopped walking. Both of them turned. I took a breath. I won't be here much longer. What? Lu Jian blinked. I'm dropping out. The world seemed to stop. Xiaoyu's books nearly slipped from her arms. Lu Jian stared at me, then laughed, then stopped laughing when he realized I wasn't joking. Wait, you're serious? I nodded. I have something I want to do. A business. Silence. Lu Jian looked like his soul had left his body. Xiaoyu's expression became complicated. Your parents agreed to this? Eventually. Eventually, after Mom nearly declared war. That earned a laugh from both of them. But Xiaoyu wasn't smiling for long. You've thought this through? Very carefully. She studied my face, then slowly nodded. For some reason, she believed me. That trust hit harder than I expected. Lu Jian sighed dramatically. Great. Now when you become rich you'll forget about us. I stopped walking and looked at both of them. Never. My voice was serious enough that neither of them laughed. When I get rich, I'll always remember you guys. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then Lu Jian pressed a hand to his chest. My heart. He clutched his chest and staggered backward. Xiaoyu rolled her eyes, but then she glanced at him. Lu Jian looked back at her. The two exchanged a look before turning toward me at the same time. A grin spread across both their faces. Get him. Before I could react, Lu Jian lunged forward and threw an arm around my neck, while Xiaoyu lightly smacked my shoulder with one of her books. Hey! I laughed as they crowded around me. That's for getting cocky. And for acting mysterious all morning, Xiaoyu added. For a moment, the 3 of us just stood there laughing. I smiled, then looked toward the administration building. I need to speak with the teachers. A few minutes later, the smiles disappeared. The next 30 minutes passed surprisingly quickly. I spoke with the teachers, thanked them for everything they had done for me over the years. Some looked shocked, others looked concerned. A few tried to convince me to reconsider. One teacher even spent nearly 10 minutes explaining why dropping out was a terrible idea. I listened to all of it, then calmly explained my decision. That I wasn't running away, that I wasn't giving up, that I simply had a different path I wanted to pursue. Eventually, the arguments stopped. Principal Zhang studied me for a long moment before letting out a sigh. You've always been stubborn, Li Wei. A few teachers laughed. Even I smiled. In the end, they respected my choice, whether they agreed with it or not. Before leaving, several of them wished me luck. One of them even told me to come back 10 years later and donate a library if I became successful. 10 years? I almost laughed. If Principal Zhang knew what was sitting inside my head and about my system, he wouldn't be talking about 10 years. 6 months. Maybe less. By then, I wouldn't be coming back to donate a library. I'd be coming back to buy the entire school. The corner of my mouth twitched upward. Of course, actually saying that out loud would make me sound completely insane. So I simply nodded and smiled. Yeah, I'll think about it. Inside, however, my ambition was already far bigger than any of them could imagine. After I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed. The blue system screen hovered silently before me. Beginner quest. Earn your first 10 yuan. Reward. Plus 100 yuan. Plus 100 EXP. I rubbed my chin. 10 yuan? That was hardly a challenge. The problem was that I currently had almost nothing. My family was barely getting by, but my parents never complained. They smiled, told me everything was fine, and carried the burden themselves. I already knew about the overdue bills before they arrived. I knew exactly how much pain my dad was hiding behind his forced smiles, and I knew my mom would come home exhausted after another day of being pushed around at work. I'd lived through all of it once before. They thought they were protecting me, but I could hear the late-night arguments and see the worry every time they checked the bank account. So when I quit school, it wasn't because I didn't care. In my last life, I stood by and did nothing while my parents worked themselves into an early grave. This time, I wasn't going to make the same mistake. Someone had to help, and I won't even consider asking for money from them. I need to figure this out myself. Fortunately, I didn't need much. The next morning, I dug through a pile of old belongings stored in the corner of the house. After nearly half an hour, I found what I was looking for. An old portable radio. It had stopped working years ago. My father had planned to throw it away but never got around to it. I examined it carefully. The issue was obvious. A loose wire connection. Nothing more. Using a cheap soldering iron borrowed from a neighbor, I spent less than 20 minutes repairing it. That afternoon, I carried the radio to a small second-hand stall near the market. The owner tested it. It works. I nodded. The man looked surprised. I'll give you 15 yuan. I smiled. Deal. The moment the money entered my hand, ding. Beginner quest completed. Earn your first 10 yuan. Reward. Plus 100 yuan. Plus 100 EXP. Level up. Level 2 reached. A warm sensation flowed through my body. I blinked. The system was real. Before I could fully process it, another notification appeared. Beginner reward. Gadget chest X1. A small metallic chest materialized on my desk with a soft flash of light. I stared at it for a moment before carefully opening it. Inside was a compact toolkit filled with precision screwdrivers, soldering tools, testing equipment, and several unfamiliar gadgets that looked years ahead of current technology. A small description window immediately appeared before my eyes. Master Repair Toolkit. Rank. Epic. Functions. Diagnose mechanical and electronic faults. Automated precision repair assistance. Material restoration. Structural reinforcement. To restore repaired components to factory new condition. My eyes widened. Not only could these tools help me repair damaged electronics, but once the repairs were completed, worn parts, scratches, discoloration, and age-related deterioration would also be restored, making the item look and function as if it had just left the factory. For someone planning to make money repairing electronics, it was practically a treasure chest. A smile slowly spread across my face. Actually real. Before I could process it, another notification appeared. New quest available. Earn your first 100 yuan. Reward. Plus 500 yuan. Plus 200 EXP. I smiled. Now this was interesting. The following morning, I counted the money sitting on my desk. 115 yuan. 15 yuan from repairing the radio. And 100 yuan from the system's beginner reward. For most people, it wasn't much. For me, it was enough. The Master Repair Toolkit rested beside me. Its metallic surface reflected the morning sunlight pouring through the window. A slow grin spread across my face. Time to make some real money. The market was already crowded when I arrived. Vendors shouted from every direction. People haggled. Children ran between stalls. And hidden among the junk was opportunity. I wandered through rows of second-hand electronics until something caught my eye. A cardboard box, filled with broken game consoles. I crouched down. Dust covered every single one. The seller barely looked up from his newspaper. None of them work. Take them or leave them. I picked up the first console. The moment my fingers touched it, the toolkit inside my backpack activated. A blue holographic scan flashed across my vision. FC console number 1. Condition, 14%. Faults detected. Failed capacitor. Damaged power connector. Repair difficulty, easy. Estimated restored value, 85 yuan. My eyebrow twitched. I grabbed another. FC console number 2. Condition: 21%. Faults detected. Broken solder joint. Oxidized contacts. Estimated restored value: 95 yuan. Then another. And another. And another. By the time I finished scanning all 5, I nearly laughed. Every single one was reparable. The seller had no idea what he was sitting on. How much for the whole box? The man shrugged. 100 yuan. I handed over the money immediately, before he could change his mind. That left me with 15 yuan in cash. But I wasn't worried. The profit was practically guaranteed. Back home, I spread the consoles across my desk. 5 machines. 5 opportunities. The toolkit unfolded automatically. Tiny precision tools slid into place. Blue holographic instructions floated above every damaged component. To a repair technician from 1993, the information would have looked like alien technology. To me, it was practically cheating. Hours passed. Capacitors were replaced. Circuits repaired. Contacts cleaned. Solder joints restored. One by one, the dead consoles came back to life. But then something unexpected happened. A new notification appeared. Master Repair Toolkit. Special function activated. Material restoration. Blue light flowed across the first console. Scratches vanished. Yellowed plastic became bright white. Faded lettering sharpened. Even the buttons looked brand new. I stared, then picked up another. The same thing happened. And another. And another. By the time I finished, the 5 consoles looked as if they had just left the factory. Not repaired. Perfect. The next day I returned to the market. The reaction was immediate. Collectors stopped walking. Parents paused mid-conversation. Even nearby vendors kept glancing toward my stall. The consoles looked brand new. Not repaired. Brand new. The first sold within 5 minutes. Then another. And another. 85 yuan. 95 yuan. 80 yuan. 110 yuan. 100 yuan. Before lunch arrived, every single console was gone. I stared at the stack of cash in my hands. Then counted it once. Then again. Then a third time. 485 yuan. My heartbeat quickened. Only 2 days ago I had almost nothing.